to lesson 16 of the Beginner Blues guitar series. This lesson is about improvising in the key of C. There are a lot of scales in this lesson. It may be a bit overwhelming. If you didn't follow the previous lessons, it might be a bit difficult to follow along. However, if you did watch the previous lessons, you will be okay. Let's first talk about an octave. What is an octave? Well, an octave is an interval. An interval is a distance between two tones. An octave is the distance between two tones that are the same, only one is higher than the other one. Imagine two people singing, for instance a man and a woman. When they sing exactly the same melody, one of the two sounds lower than the other. The difference is one octave. On the guitar you can play an octave by moving 12 frets. Anything you play, you can play 12 frets higher if it fits on your neck. It will sound the same, only higher. Only one octave higher. For instance, this tone, I can play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 frets higher. It's the same, only higher. Okay, so far we have seen two types of blues, the major blues and the minor blues. In this video we'll talk about the major blues only. In the next video, the next lesson, we'll look at the minor blues. Let's have a look at the chord scheme of the major blues. How can you tell this is a major blues? Exactly, there are no minor chords. If you want to improvise on a major blues, you'll need some licks, which will be later in the video, and you'll have to know which scales you can use. In the following, we'll apply the scales we already know in the key of C. Also, we'll use the octave to play some scales higher up the neck. Okay, so there's a lot of text. What you are looking at are 8 different scales. These scales we will practice. You already know these scales. Maybe you don't know you already know them, but believe me, if you follow the lessons, you already know all of these scales. We'll have a closer look at each of them. Okay, hold on, don't worry here. Let me explain something about all this information. Here you have the formula to prove that a rock falls down when you drop it. I found it on Wikipedia. Well, things sometimes look more complicated than they really are. You can try to understand the formula, or you can simply take a rock and drop it. And that's what we'll do. Grab your guitar and let's have a closer look at the scales. In this diagram, the red square is the ground tone or key tone of the scale. We've seen it before. I also painted some of the tones blue. These are the so-called blue notes. We've played them, but I just never called them blue notes before. Actually, these tones don't belong in the scale. However, they are added to give a more bluesy sound. So they are real blues tones. Just remember, these are called blue notes. The scale we are looking at over here is the most basic blues scale. The key of C starts in position 8. Let's play the scale. The next scale is the same scale, also starting in position 8 on the low E string. but this is the extended version. Remember this one? This is the blues scale that starts on the A string. To play the blues scale in the key of C starting on the A string, you have to start at the third position. The third position on the A string is the C. So what is this? Well, this is exactly the same scale as we just played, only 12 frets higher. So 1 octave higher. So instead of starting at the third position, we start at position 15. 12 frets higher. 3 plus 12 makes 15. Remember the major blues scale? It was exactly the same as the normal minor blues scale, only 3 frets lower. When we apply this to the blues scale of C, we go from position 8 to 7, 6, 5. However, we start the major blues scale with our fourth finger, with our pinky. So the pinky is on position 8. Okay, hold on. Maybe you have noticed that this major blues scale in C, the major blues scale of C, is exactly the same as the normal minor blues scale in the key of A. So, the major blues scale in C is exactly the same as the normal blues scale in A. Yes, that's true. That's how it is. Why? Well, that's complicated. The key of C major and A minor are called parallel keys. That's a rather complicated theoretical issue. It would go too far to explain that in this video. One day I'll make a video about this, I promise. I just don't know when. But it will be there one day. So we have just played the C major blues scale. Starting in the 5th position, well, we can do the same here as we did before. We can move it 1 octave up. Well, 5 plus 12 is 17. So this is pretty high on the neck. One tip, if you play this high, you might just want to use your 1st and 3rd finger, because the frets are very small. It's important to practice this high on the neck, because it feels completely different. It tends to be more difficult to play notes this high. Down one octave again, we'll play the major blues scale in the extended version. And finally, this last one. This one is new. We didn't look at this one before. Well, you do know it. It's the major blues scale that starts on the A string. We've only looked at the normal minor blues scale that starts on the A string. To go from the normal minor blues scale to the major blues scale, we do the same. We go 3 frets down. However, when you start in the 3rd position, and you go 3 frets down, you end up at the open A string. And we don't want that. We don't want open strings. However, we can simply play that 1 octave higher, 12 frets higher. If we do that, we have our first finger in the 12th position. So this is the major blues scale in C, starting on the A string, high up the neck. These were a lot of scales, then again, you already know them. They are not really new. You just need to learn to apply the skills you already know. How do you practice this? Well, find some play-along track, some backing track of a blues in C, and just practice them one by one. After that, you can try to mix them. You start in the 3rd position, then you go to the 5th position, to the 8th position, to position 12, etc. Just play them all using backing tracks. In the following 5 blues licks, some of them are doubled. I play them low and 1 octave higher up the neck. Thank you for watching. There were a lot of skills in this video and it might be a bit overwhelming. Then again, if you followed all the lessons, at one moment you will get it. You will understand how it works. If you don't understand it, if it's too much, that's okay. It's a lot of information. Just watch this video again, maybe go back to some older videos. Eventually you will get it. One last thing, if you have any questions about these videos or any questions in general about playing guitar, just post them in the reactions of my videos. I will read them. I cannot answer all reactions I get, but if you have a good question, I might make a video about it or at least answer your question. Thank you, that's it for now, and hope to see you next time. Bye.